Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, to see you in the room and also to welcome people online as well. I'm particularly interested in this question about where animal welfare fits in this wider sustainability, well, I guess narrative and activities and everything that we do. I'm really hoping that some polling will work. Let's see, I've tried to make these polls obviously available online and in the person. So if you want to get your phones out and log into this, I've offered you some choices just to get you started and get the grey matter going. So where does farmed, I'm thinking I'm going to limit ourselves just to farmed animal welfare in this context. Animal welfare fit within sustainability for you. And I've offered you 4 options. It's absolutely paramount, more important, in fact, than other sustainability attributes. It's central. We shouldn't move forward on environmental sustainability at the cost of animal welfare. It's somewhat important, should be considered, but we might have to have some compromises, or it's really peripheral. Let's go for those other sustainability goals. Is it open and is it working, people in the room? Are you I think you can either do the QR code or you can use this. Oh, still. What does this thing? Oh. Is anybody managing? How are we doing? Yeah, you can click on the QR code and then it should come up for there's a couple of other polls towards the end as well. Yep, any of those. Let's see, and hopefully online you're able to log in as well, and then we can. This is the UCD system. I just want to say that I have my other systems previously that I was really happy with. I've been.
Go to pauliv.com and join, yeah, and then put in Siobhan Mullan and 799.
Okay, are you on and are you able to vote?
Oh yeah.
Because means some waiting room.
Waiting room. Oh, crumbs. What does that even mean?
Waiting for the petition to begin.
Oh.
You have to allow people in.
Is that allowing you now? Okay, so I think each time I perhaps need to click that little active thing. Great. Okay. Go right ahead and vote as soon as you can, anybody who's got access. Okay, I'm going to just shut that now in a couple of minutes and, well, seconds only. And let's see. Whoa, how do we even get to the responses then? Here we are. Okay. Okay. So really interesting. Thank you so much for this. We're already starting. So by far the commonest response then was that it's very central but not paramount, and then a bit important, and some people saying it's quite peripheral. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to give you this potted history, which I gather is a sort of thing about myself. So I'm a vet, kind of transitioned to doing welfare science, always really interested in this whole issue about how we should treat animals, veterinary ethics. I've had projects kind of across the board, but I guess I really try and focus on bringing about change, in particular kind of large scale change. So for me, although I really miss so many aspects of practice, and I loved veterinary practice, actually I'm kind of happy in this space to really think about how to use welfare assessments and encourage really large organizations, countries, large organizations to bring about change. these are all projects that I've worked on and that I feel passionate about. My PhD was spent in pig farms like this for years and years, and I still sort of bear the scars of that. Just thinking about welfare assessment in general, this is a chance for you to just think, which of these faces kind of would you describe as your representing your life as a whole? I'm not going to ask you, but this has been asked to many, many people all around the world, lots of different cultures and so on. And if you add all these together, these are the sort of way that people describe themselves. So luckily, very few people are saying that actually they've got this very miserable life. And most people are kind of going, yeah, I'm like pretty, you know, it's pretty good. And as I say, this is really well represented. And when I have asked you that question, I want you to just reflect for a second on whether you thought about kind of specific occasions or incidences or aspects of your life, or whether you more generally just had this kind of sense of how you are. I'm not going to ask you, but just bear that in mind, because this is how we think about when we're thinking about how to do welfare assessments of animals. You know, what things should we bring in? What attributes should we bring in? And there's a really there's a kind of a big, strong move now to have this focus not only on those negative and the suffering that we know animals experience, but also on those positive life aspects. Because actually in people, it's usually those positive things that are more influential in how people rate their quality of life. And in fact, time spent in perceived positive states is the biggest predictor. So over above like the intensity, for example, of those positive states. So we think about this in terms of animals, and here's a variety of animals experiencing positive welfare. I really like to do different things, and kind of interdisciplinary collaboration. So I did this ethnography of a chicken. I went to live as a chicken just for one day. I actually wanted to do it for a month, but I wasn't allowed by university ethics. And then we did like a sort of participatory thing. And in fact, one of the guys there was a Christian theologian who came along to this workshop that we did. And he then put a big project together, which I was a sort of welfare scientist associated with. And they were looking at the Christian ethics of farmed animal welfare. And that's also translated into a little Earth Institute small grant I'm really happy that we've got, working with Aideen Quilty, Mark Dalton and Matt Kennedy, exploring the use of the term gender for animals. So this is something that I've noticed over time, that the word gender is coming being used more and more in places where perhaps we would have previously used sex. So in scientific papers, in standards provided to farmers and so on. So more about that another time, because that work is ongoing, but we're very grateful to the Earth Institute for that little grant. I am definitely all about impact and really guided by this effective altruist approach, which if you are not familiar with, I guess in a nutshell, it kind of says it's not enough just to do some good, you should do the most good you can do. So I've had 3 big projects looking at cost effectiveness, for example, of different policy instruments. And I mean, this is very sort of familiar for healthcare, evaluating charities and so on now. But just to remind you, we might think we're a nation of dairy farmers in terms of agriculture. We're not, we're a nation of chicken farmers. Okay, over 100 million chickens in Ireland are produced every year, dwarfing all of those other animal species put together. And we forget about those chickens. They're in sheds, we don't see them, but those are individual lives. And this is what they look like in the main. Sheds of 30 to 50,000 birds, very little enrichment, very fast growing. And how did we get from this jungle fowl through maybe a more kind of slightly more naturalistic way of keeping them into this very intensive setting? Well, it was partly through genetics. So this is the most extraordinary picture I find, where we're looking at how the broiler chicken has developed from the 50s through to not that long ago. So that is pure genetics that has driven that growth rate. So we've got this 400% increase in growth, 50% reduction in feed conversion ratio, and I'll come on to that in a second, and this massive increase in the breast muscle, which of course in Ireland, like many other Northern European countries, you know, we really prize highly. But they're much more likely to be lame. So they're about a quarter of these birds are significantly lame by the end of their lives, and they actually it's not really compatible with life. The parents of these birds have to be so food restricted in order to survive. Otherwise, they're just these huge kind of brutes that can't really, you know, their cardiovascular system and so on can't cope. So you know, there are welfare implications kind of across the whole system. So we've had this, you know, we've had this huge improvement. It's been very efficient, and it's been efficient kind of environmentally as well. Yes, there are issues about soya and so on, but essentially we've been able to grow these birds with, you know, less food over time and all the rest of it. What about if we just improve their welfare a little bit? So going from this standard bird to, for example, this European chicken commitment, which is a slightly modified version, still indoors, but slightly slower growing birds and slightly lower stocking density and maybe a little bit of enrichment as well. So one report suggested that it was around about 20% increase in both greenhouse gases and also cost as well. So this really kind of, the whole industry, you know, panicked at this and thought, well, how can we deliver welfare and, you know, these other sustainability benefits? Well, one organization, which actually supplies about a third of the Norwegian chicken market, decided to kind of grapple with this. They knew that Norwegians were really, you know, focused on animal welfare, but also, of course, sustainability attributes. So they decided to move to this slower growing breed, and much quicker than they expected. They actually found that 20% cost increase didn't apply to them. They found it was more profitable because actually there were some additional benefits that we didn't calculate in those initial reports. And they are aiming to be carbon neutral and soya free by 2030 in their whole production. So there are opportunities, but there are still probably some areas where we might have to trade off. Okay, now's another chance for you. I'm interested in whether you have changed your consumption of animal products in recent times for any of these reasons. Let me just see if I can, what do I have to do this again? Is that open for you now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, how are you getting on? You've voted. Let's have a see. Okay, so again, like a real range there. So some people haven't, and then various different reasons given, more environmental and health than for animal welfare or other reasons. Thank you, very interesting. So the challenge as I see it is that both animal welfare and some of these other sustainability attributes are really highly prized by citizens across Europe, certainly. And how do we manage when there is some conflict? So there are definitely some win-win things. Improvements in health is a clear one, and there's obviously a role for vets in doing that. But sometimes they're in conflict, and particularly, so I showed the example of just, you know, slightly better situation for those indoor chickens, but actually if you go to outdoor free range and so on, that's when you start to see that it's maybe that the trade-off is still there. So when we provide these really meaningful kind of game-changing animal welfare improvements, sometimes there is that potential trade-off. I guess this is the way I see it, which may not be how everyone sees it. For me, there is this red line, like we just shouldn't keep animals in certain ways. We've got all these legacy systems that came about with, you know, good intentions 50, 80 years ago, confining animals and so on. We would not farm these animals like this if we started today. We might still farm animals, we might still eat them, we might eat less of them, but some of these things we just wouldn't do. So for me, I would like to see that we moved animals above this ethical red line, and that society determines what that red line is, not based on what we've done 50 years ago, but where we are now, and then start looking at how does this fit into this bigger picture of our other concerns as well, in terms of providing for good lives for animals and environmental goals. Okay, this is your final poll, and then I'll finish. I'm just wondering whether you think that animal welfare should be considered within, for example, a UCD-wide campus policy around food procurement. Should we put, I don't know, should we ask suppliers that they only have free-range eggs as an example? Or should we focus on sustainability and those other environmental aspects kind of more specifically? Oh, I need to open it for you, I think, don't I? Do I?
It's open.
It's open.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I don't know how this works. Okay. Let's see your response. Okay. So some people still think it's not that important, but a stronger majority thinking it is important. Okay, that was my final slide. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you so much for your views, and happy to chat, of course.